Would you like to hear my theory on what's really happening in the world?
Sure, why not? Everybody else has one, you know?
Well, since Elon Musk thinks we're living in a simulation,
Okay.
if you want to run with that theory, what if, like, in games, especially like, we'll use Minecraft as an example, because that's one of those games where it's kind of like endless, but you can kind of break out of the walls of the main game, and you just keep going and going, and the further you get away from the real game, the weirder everything starts to get. What if we just broke out of the simulation too far? Like in 2016, we were just like, let's just keep walking, see where this goes.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, we're just like, oh shit, it's not so nice out here. We're in the wastelands of the simulation. Or we just really fuck things up.
That's the most likely of scenarios.
I don't know what's happening now. And now I feel like there's just arbitrary rules that not everybody follows.
Yeah, like I kept on seeing, like, I didn't see a lot of people, but I probably at least saw a double-digit amount of people just walking around, you know, work without masks on.
Yeah.
Like, not employees, but customers.
I won't name the business, but I delivered water to a restaurant that's supposed to be closed, because around here you can have carry-out.
Yeah.
But that's it. Pick up, carry out, but you're not supposed to have sit-down service. Well, this restaurant was filled to capacity with old people, and nobody, including the staff, was wearing masks. They were just all sitting down, eating their breakfast, having a gay old time, talking about the 40s or whatever the old people talk about, Dick Van Dyke or something. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening here?
I saw, like, somebody took a video, and it was like I don't think it was a Waffle House, but kind of something like along them lines, like a bigger kind of diner kind of deal, and just packed full of people waiting outside to get in, like, you know what I mean? Like, you had to squeeze yourself to get around people, and like I said, I think it was like some place down in the South, and it's just like,
yeah, it's probably Georgia.
Probably.
They opened back up. At this point, maybe the people who are at most risk should just stay home, and the rest of us just... You know what? I was actually just telling her this when we were talking about salons. I almost feel like once you hit 75, 80, if you want to get sick and maybe die, that's kind of your...
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you're just like, I don't really care, I'm really old, I'm just going to go out. Like, that's kind of your right as a really old person. I mean...
Well, I'm going to say, and that's the thing is, like... Most of the people that I see out and about
are old.
Are the people that shouldn't be out and about, either by age or just health.
Well, everyone was, during the legit lockdown where you barely saw people, everyone who was out was, I would say, over 60 years old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That was the main thing, and that's what blew my mind. It's like, you're the ones we're doing all this shit for, supposedly, and you're just, not to hate against old people, but... If you don't care, why should we? I mean, I don't want to get anybody sick. I wouldn't want to spread it. I'd feel bad. But at the same time, if you don't care...
Yeah, why are we doing it?
Why are we doing this then? What's happening? What are we doing? What are we doing here? I don't know. Kind of irritates me. And again, I don't care. I don't mind the mask. I don't mind the social distancing. Don't even mind not being able to go to the restaurant so much. But just when like some businesses can be run normal, but others can't. Yeah. And it always tends to be like... You could have a couple thousand people in a Walmart or Target, but your local comic book shop needs to be closed for 2 months. Yeah. It's like, why? What's the difference? It's very stupid. I don't like it. I feel like whoever's lining certain pockets are the ones who get to do what they want.
Did you see that? I saw on Facebook after work. Somebody posted a picture, like I think it was like Kroger's, because like they're like when this first started, they got like a $400, almost $500 like bonus thing. They are making them people pay that back to them. That's the note saying that like that was an error that they got I forget if
it was Kroger's or Costco or whatever paid the employees extra and now want them to pay it back.
Yeah, and that was the note was saying that like it was an error in the paying thing or whatever. And now that, check that you acknowledge this, and then there was, like, 3 different plans of, like, and how you get to pay, like, all back at once, or, like, half, or, like, in installments of, like, $95 or some shit like that.
Just quit Kroger's and go somewhere else.
Right? Or I just want to pay it. Like, I'd be like, no. And watch me sue you. Like,
fuck you.
You paid me that money. Like, you gave it to me.
Like, what are you doing here?
And because it's not like it's like an honest like billing error where they accidentally give you like an extra $1,000.
Yeah.
No, it was supposed to be a bonus or a stimulus thing or like.
And then they just decided, you know what, that was a bad move. Why would they think that would be a good idea, taking that money back? Like, that's not going to be a publicity fail.
Yeah, and people wouldn't find out about it.
Well, that's always like every year you hear a story about the IRS accidentally giving somebody a couple extra zeros on their tax return, and then like the person doesn't say anything. And also, here's the thing: not everybody is really like that. Like, if you don't need money that much, like you're already rich or something, you might not even really notice your tax return, like your refund. You might not really pay attention to it that much. So if you get this big chunk of change, and then you just spend it, and then they come in like, oh, now you're going to jail. Like, what? That was your fuck up.
Yeah.
We literally pay you for some reason. We pay you to take our money. Like, I don't know why you can't do that properly. Fucking goddamn tax. You know, once we fucking overthrew the government over a goddamn tea party, like, we just got really mad because they were putting taxes on tea.
Yeah.
And now it's like they tax you for everything, and we're just like, okay, you mean I gotta pay taxes on this used car that's been sold 4 times already? All right.
It's like literally like everything.
You mean I gotta pay taxes on the property I already own? Okay. It gets, oh god, it makes me mad.
I mean, it gets to the point, like, remember even at one of the last conventions we were at last year, that we kept on hearing people talking about how people started to tax what you get at conventions now.
Oh.
And it's like, what? Come on.
Give me a break. Yeah, and if you buy, apparently I didn't even know this. I think it applies to Amazon if you buy off like third-party sellers on Amazon. So say somebody's selling on Amazon, but they're from China or something, and they don't use the proper tax code for your area or something. Like, you have to pay attention to make sure you're paying the Pennsylvania sales tax, or you would have to, I don't know how the IRS would find out, but you would have to pay that back at some point. Like, what? I'm sorry, but I'm not that observant.
No.
To see if I got... Because there's a lot of times I buy books and there's no tax, but then other times I buy books and I'm like, oh, this was like $1 something extra because of the tax. I don't know the difference. I don't know why it does that.
And, and I don't know the actual percentage tax and,
Because a lot of times I'm either buying, like, a book off of... just like whatever random publisher, or if I just buy, usually the ones that get taxed on are when I buy a book off an actual author. Like, they have an Amazon thing set up, so I buy the book.
That makes sense for them because they have to keep track of. But
when I buy it off of some random publisher or something, it's usually, like it says, $9.99. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But then if I just bought a book that was $9.99 off an author, and it was like 10 something. So how's I don't know. We need a tax guy on here.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't. Actually, that's a really good episode that we are not qualified to do, is how to do the taxes for independent writing and stuff.
Or any of that kind of shit.
I have
the more business end of it.
I know you have to fill out other forms because I see them when I do my taxes, but I never have to dive into those yet, so I don't know. I know if you leave stuff in your PayPal, when you get money for work, if you leave it in your PayPal and just spend it recklessly on garbage you don't need online, the tax man won't know because PayPal doesn't report that until it's like 10 grand or something.
Oh yeah.
Versus if you put it in your bank account, which I don't know how they know either, unless you're getting actual checks or something. It's like $500 and then you have to pay taxes. Like, if you win more than $500, you have to pay taxes. Same if you get paid something, but. Like,
that's same like even like on a scratch off. Mm-hmm. If you win more, I think it's more than 500, you have to pay taxes on it.
But meanwhile, like, how do they know where you get that money from if it's cash? Because like, she used to always give me money for the utilities. If she paid the utilities, she'd just give me the money because it was in my name. So I would just put fucking $500, whatever it is, a month into my bank account to pay them. Nobody ever said anything, but that adds up. Yeah. So you don't know where that money's coming from. So the moral of the story, get paid in cash if you can, or use PayPal.
Yeah.
have entered the DPW zone. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, oh shit, what is your name? That sounds right. Spencer, the Boise Butcher Church.
Ooh.
I thought of butcher because I thought of your butcher story because we don't really have an idea for the episode, so we decided we're going to talk about some of our disappointing moments in our writing careers versus the highlights of things that we didn't really want highlighted.
Yeah.
Like, we're disappointed that things that did well, we didn't give a shit about, and the things we wanted to do well,
not so well.
I have to go back to look at the numbers to see what actually did well, but I know some of my stories that I was like, yeah, this is a fucking solid story. Fucking crickets.
Yeah.
Nothing. Didn't hear anything from them. But then I'm like, oh shit, I should put a story out tomorrow. I'll just shit this out in 5 seconds, and then just like, okay. Then, oh my god, that was so deep and brilliant. I can't believe I'm touching myself reading it. Ugh. That's a little weird. I guess we'll have to address the elephant in the room. The highest viewed piece on the DPW website.
By far.
By like a couple 100,000 views.
It's ridiculous.
Written by Spencer Church some year and a half, 2 years ago now.
How long have we been doing the website for?
I thought we've been doing it since like 2016.
Yeah, so whenever it was within the first couple months of the website.
But the first year it got like 60 views. Like nobody gave a shit.
Nobody.
And we're just like, okay, whatever.
No.
Which is what we were expecting because it was literally drivel.
Yeah.
Just a nonsense fluff article.
Thrown together in mere moments.
I don't remember the exact title, but I think it was was it just heroes? So strongest heroes in the Marvel universe, or just in?
I think in like Marvel and DC, like just like the main, the main two, like the strongest.
But it was just strongest characters, like the strongest heroes. And that, man, I don't know. I think it was around the time like one of the Avenger movies came out. I don't know if it was the actual Avenger. It might. I think it was before that, but it was when Thanos was hinted at, or like when he made his first actual appearance. As soon as that happened, I noticed the spike. People searching strongest heroes, and then that fucking article. It gets like, even now, it gets at least like 300 views a day sometimes. Yeah. And it's like, why are people reading this stupid thing? And then he got really upset in the comments a lot.
Oh yeah, people seem to hate it too. Like
fucking just paragraphs upon paragraphs of why you're an idiot, and then fighting with the other guys who agree with you, and
or that the other guys that they're fighting with somebody else who thinks I'm an idiot for another reason. They just can't figure out what they can't decide on why I'm an idiot.
So Spencer, having the most viral thing we've done, at least. Is that for you a disappointment, or is that a success? I mean, technically you look at that as a success, but when you turn that in, you're just like, yeah, here's something for the web. Like, there's no.
I mean, I guess if the angle of writing I wanted to do was like to write on like to be like a writer on like a shitty website like CBR or something like that, and I could be like, hey, look at this thing that I wrote and look at all the views that it got. Like, I mean, so I guess like if I wanted to do something like that, it'd be good to have. Yeah. But as like wanting to be a fiction writer,
nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
I mean, we've honestly in the last year we've pretty much steered away from article writing. Because we used to write articles every week, but then I was like, well, now we're not writing any fiction because we're too busy doing this shit.
The most we try to, like, is whenever I do try to do, like, a review or something.
Yeah, and that's usually, and Ash will do reviews on some books, like, if he just thinks they're interesting or something, but, like, I haven't had any desire to do article. I got burnt out. Between my freelance years and then starting up the website and writing articles for it, I just, like... I mean, at most you get people like, "Oh, that was a very good article," but we're not getting paid for that.
And like, there's only so many subjects you can cover and write about in this this topic,
and they're already probably covered 100 times on like Writer's Digest or something by
people who know
best-selling authors or something.
People who know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think we do. We have good articles, but at the same time. Don't really need more, at least not at the moment.
I mean, they serve their purpose at the time. Like, that's what we kind of really use to, like,
bringing an audience.
But even though kind of cutting our teeth on just writing in general, like, you know, 'cause even though there wasn't a fictional story, it's still, you know, it was good practice of sitting down, you know,
being able to convey a message
and, you know, a point of view and just writing, because, you know, any good article is going to be at least like 1,000 words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know.
Well, when you have well-written articles that actually can help people too, that legitimizes the website and us, because people read, oh, these guys know what they're talking about. So that it helped for that, and honestly, they kind of helped launch the podcast, because when we started the podcast, we're like, oh, well, you know, we kind of have not an endless well, but it's a very deep well. If we ever want to go to those articles, they're there to get into. But I just, as far as the highs and lows, got another rejection for that story. Again, don't think they read it, because this one had the queue system. So I start off at like 680 something, and then every day it would go up like a 150, 200. So it was like 4 or 5 days in, I was at like 127, and then that was when I checked it. And literally like 20 minutes later, they're like, oh, well, you know, it wasn't a right fit or something. And again, I don't know if they do sword and sorcery. It was just a fantasy magazine. But it's like, and I know that's one of the top fantasy, I looked it up, as one of the top fantasy magazines in the world. So I'm like, well, that was kind of lofty. But there's only ones, I can't find people to take the word count.
Yeah.
But the thing was, like, I'm just like, I don't even know if they read beyond the cover letter. Maybe the first paragraph, but there's no, because this is like almost 10,000 word story. I'm sorry, but you're not reading that in a minute.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. And I know they just go through so many stories.
Or if you are, you're not, you can't tell how good it is.
You're not going to be enjoying it if you're reading it, like, just kind of skimming through. And I think it's just one of those deals. You have to kind of know somebody to get, because I actually have an article about getting out of the slush pile. I wrote some time ago, but
I think we did an episode too, didn't we?
I probably did. But the main thing with that is, to get out of the slush pile, you kind of just have to not go in the slush pile.
Yeah.
The best way to do that is have an editor, somebody you know that works for the publication, that it could just, you know, can you read my work? I found another magazine. It's actually a pulp style sword and sorcery magazine.
Oh,
that would be my best chance. They don't pay nearly as well as the other ones, but at this point, I just want the story read. And
get a credit. You know?
Yeah, but they're not open for submission. So I emailed the editor and was just like, "Hey, you know, I know you're not open or anything, but I have a story I think you might be interested in." And I just gave him the kind of synopsis. It was like, you know, just let me know when you're open or whatever. You're down to read it. I haven't heard back yet, but we'll see how. Because every other magazine I found does like a $10 token, or which is pretty much just saying you get a free copy of the magazine. Yeah. Like, it's something stupid. It just sucks, because I just read the goddamn story.
Well, I mean, like we were talking about before, like, you know, off air at different times, like you might have to just go the self-published route.
Yeah, but if I do that,
you obviously can't do it by yourself. It has to be thrown in with like something else.
Yeah, well, like I said, if I publish that story myself, then what I'm gonna do is make just a whole collection.
Yeah,
because I don't want. I'll just do the whole. Make it a series, and then I could probably just sell it to a publisher. I had a lot of fun writing that, and I actually want to continue that universe and write more stories. But I wish I would have known the noir genre was so popular now. There's so many more magazines that have that. And, well,
you're working on a noir story, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's more just like, I'm going to put on the site for free if I even finish it. That's just to try the waters and see if I'm good at it. See how I feel. I'm like halfway through that story. It's fun to write. I really like it. That one's not really a modern story. So if I would actually do a story to submit somewhere, I would make it a modern.
Oh, okay.
Like, this one's just more for fun. Sometimes you just gotta write stories for fun, you know? Just to get the enjoyment out of it. That's my most recent disappointment.
What would you... Do you know what the, like, or an idea of what your, like, highest viewed or numbered thing that you wrote?
See, I don't think the site can really just tell you unless you actually look up specific ones.
Well, I just didn't know if you if you noticed one that always will get, like, you know what I mean? Something that was always getting a lot of hits.
I mean, I've had a couple stories that made their rounds around different blogs. Like, people shared it to their blogs. And there's a couple stories I had that made it onto... I don't even know... I don't remember the names of the websites, but, like, they collect, like, the best stories from around indie publishers. And they just, like, I don't know if people submit them or what. I didn't. They just found me somehow. But, and then they take, like, an excerpt and, like, a quote and stuff. Like, I've done that. I've had some stories that made those rounds. I've had some stories where they, like, I think I've done a couple interviews or something, like written interviews with people. But I really don't remember, like, the specific stories, honestly, because that's not really how I think. Like, when it comes to the stories, once it's out there, I don't really honestly care. Like, I just want people to read it, but I don't really care where it goes. It'd be different if I got paid for the story, because then I'm like, okay, well, now you're stealing it. But when I put it on the site for free, I don't, for people to read, I don't mind if people jack it as long as my name's on it. But, like, that Bizarre the Blind the serial story I did fairly well. I did a story, I don't remember the name of it, but like a haunted pirate ship type of story. It had like an H.P. Lovecraft feel. That got shared around, and that was pretty popular. Yeah, but I don't to say what the highest viewed one was, I'm not sure. I would have to go back and look. What about you, besides the Marvel article? Have you noticed anything else you've had? How about the fiction side of things?
Not really. I remember the one story where I actually got a decent amount of likes, and even somebody like commented or like shared it on Twitter, was that like flash fiction piece I did about the guy stuck in a coma.
Yeah.
And like just like from his perspective, and like how he could, like, you know, still see and hear. Yeah,
you got a few things for that. I remember seeing that went around Twitter a little bit. I saw some people sharing that. Again, the artwork always helps when you have good artwork to go with it, because we had like a cool cover picture for that. But yeah, that one did pretty well. It's hard to judge like the views on those too, because the site gets way more views now than ever, and we haven't been publishing fiction or anything that much. So if we publish fiction now, we would probably get a huge boost in the views and the shares and stuff.
That's it. Is there a story that, like, you know, we talk about like how we want like all of us, the stories that we put on there to, you know, to get, you know, viewed and seen, but is there like a certain story that you wrote and we put out that you wanted so bad
to do well? And
just to have people notice, or to, you know, to talk about it on Twitter a little bit, or anything like that, you know?
I've had a few stories where I thought they were going to do really well because I really enjoyed them, and crickets. And even though like the Bizarre the Blind did okay, I would throw that in there, because again, if the serial fiction, like you've experienced that daily round, it's kind of hard because sometimes people just don't want to read something that comes out weekly.
Yeah. Or they forget or don't have time to get to the later parts.
But like the people who've read that story really enjoyed it, but I didn't get as many views as I was hoping. But at the same time, it's, again, a serial story online. We didn't even have the audience back then to really be doing something like that. I just wanted something to kind of, honestly, that was just to motivate myself to write weekly for a while.
And two, that was...
Stay to like a self-imposed deadline.
And two, then that we were really of an, you know, get material out at that point. But yeah, you brought up daily rounds. That would be mine. Would be like, that would be the one that I,
because you put the most work in at the time. I put
so much. Even to like now, I think that's still like one of the, like, I just put so much time and effort into that. And then because like not only did I put a whole bunch of time and effort into writing the thing, but then I had to put a whole bunch of extra time. Because originally it was just one piece. It was just one. It was just one big story, and then I had to find ways to cut off and to, like, you know, so it just
get maybe like a little cliffhanger type of deal.
Just to tweak things a little bit and stuff like that. It was just, that was a whole nother thing there.
Another story. I mean, this one I wouldn't say was anywhere near like the strongest story, because even though it was a long. I think it was a short story. I don't think it was like 10,000 words or anything. Maybe 5,000, 2,000. I'm not sure the word count, but it's almost like a flash fiction piece, as it's kind of just like one big scene. But the story, and I think the title was In Entered the Grifter, or In Came the Grifter or something. But it was like about a guy who's pretending to be a book salesman, comes to this guy's house. And what I liked about that was a horror story where the guy ends up turning like this demonic fucking monster thing. But it's just like the detail I put in there, I had so much fun writing like this big fucking creepy creature guy thing. And that one, it didn't seem to hit, even though I was really hoping it would, because I just like, I really like the imagery I put in this. And that one wasn't really hard like to write or anything. It was just a fun one. As far as stories that I've really put a lot of work into, what was...
You know what we should have done? We should have brought up a list of our stories, is what we should have done before we did this.
We could do that on here. Oh, I had that, what was the name of that story I wrote about the guy that worked in the paint shop or something, paint factory? And
the something case, like the strange case or curious case of...
What killed... Man, that's sad. I don't even remember. Let me look that up. Because that was like I think it was like 10,000 words. That was a long one. And I was a little disappointed that didn't get more eyes on it. Again, though, I noticed honestly, the stories that, maybe this is why magazines have such a hard cutoff. Once they go beyond like 7,000 words, anything we've shared usually gets a lot less views. What killed Gord Stimpson? Yeah, that one I really... again, though, that was a serial story. Okay, that's why. Yeah, but that was slightly disappointing, because those serial stories take a lot of work, and I wish they would do a little better, but, what are you going to do? Alright, here, I brought my author page. See, now it's going to be mostly podcast stuff. See, I wish on the site, though, it would say if it's a short story or not. You just have to go by the minute count. I had that one story I wrote recently called The Bag. That didn't really get shared around too much, I don't think. That was one of those ones I wrote pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another one that was a little weird. I wrote this in March 7th, so it's not that long ago. It was called Fall from Grace. I think it was just a flash fiction piece. And that one apparently hit a nerve with some people. And I think there's some comments on there. And that got shared around. I think that was one of those ones that ended up on one of those websites, like, story of the week type of deal. And I literally just wrote that in like 20 minutes, just kind of, because I was just like, I just need to, it's kind of like my warm-up writing for what I was actually writing. Because sometimes I do that. I'll do like a warm-up piece before I get to my actual whatever story I'm working on.
It's kind of like art. Like I know a lot of comic book artists, they do like a warm-up sketch before they actually get into doing whatever they're working on.
Yeah, I was doing that for a while with flash fiction pieces and stuff. But that one did pretty well. I'm not going to go through all those, but if you...
Let's say one of mine, I would was Give Me a Murder. Where like they
the football one, right?
Yeah. Because that
was a longer one.
Yeah, because that's an 18-minute read on the website. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a bigger one. Took some effort.
What successes though that can you celebrate? I mean, I named some of the ones, my more recent ones, but a better question. We're kind of viewing these on just how others felt about the work. But what stories did you just really either enjoy writing or you're just most proud of doing? Whether they got popular or not, or anybody even read them, like what stories were you really excited about?
Well, again, to double back, I am proud of Daily Rounds as being like that first like
big story set.
Yeah. This is gonna sound terrible, but I like, especially like the flash fictions and smaller stories, like I kind of forgot a lot of like those kind of things.
There's a lot of times where I'll find like I'll go through the site and I'll just find like a random story. Like sometimes I'll just share old stuff on like social media. And I'll start reading it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm like, man, who wrote this? I'm like, oh, shit, I wrote this. Like, I don't remember this at all. Then I feel good about myself for a little bit.
But the, one of our up and coming stories for the book, my butcher story, I think that turned out well. At least I'm hoping it turned out well. I think it It's all right.
That might be the best thing you've written yet.
I might be biased. Well, and I mean, this might just sound like trying to plug, but then my other story for the book too, I put a lot of time and effort into that, and I thought the story, I think I did a good job.
Pretty solid.
Yeah. And did some different kind of things that I might not normally do in my other work.
Mm-hmm. The first story... What are you doing?
The fucking dog farted.
She's sitting here for 20 minutes and they're making that face. Yeah, the first story I wrote for the anthology I thought was really good. And then the beta readers just shredded it. And I was just like, oh man. Because I don't want to rewrite it. I might just leave it as is. To be on the plus side, though, most of that was just weird technical stuff that's that doesn't. Because I know how I write. I know the grammar and stuff's fine. It's not that, but I think some people are a little too picky.
Yeah, I think that's things for pointing typos or errors out to me.
Yeah,
but I'm letting you read this to get an idea about the story.
Well, that's the thing. All the beta readers I got, the story's all right, or the story's pretty good, but maybe this should be changed, or maybe that. But it wasn't story elements.
Yeah.
It was the writing elements. I was well, no, because that's how you would have written it.
Yeah.
It's helpful to tell me what's wrong with the story, or maybe oh, this scene would be better if it was like this. That's one thing. But if you're just oh, you could have worded it like this, well, that's how you would have worded it, though. Sometimes that could be helpful, but a lot of times it's well, you're kind of just rewriting the story your way. I don't do that when I edit people's stuff. I don't go, hey, this is how I would write it. I mean, you could do that as a suggestion. Maybe if you want to think about framing it this way or something. But usually you talk about the scene or what the imagery.
Especially if they haven't asked for your input.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing, if they asked, hey, Caleb, I'm stuck on this part of the story. What do you think? What would you think would be a good way to kind of tackle it or handle it?
Yeah, that's what we usually do. I mean, now it would be different if it was an editor you hired, but again, they're not supposed to be changing your writing if the writing, if the grammar and spelling and everything's fine and the structure is fine. It's just they think either a phrase or you're describing the color of a guy's burned arm. But they think, well, maybe you should talk about it being bubbly instead of crispy or something. Yeah. And I was well, now you're just why? That has nothing to do with that's how you would describe it. That's not the same thing. I don't like when people do that because it's not your writing. That's why it's always tough to ask fellow writers to be your beta readers. If you can get beta readers who are just people who like to read, you usually never get that. I've noticed because when I've had just people who just want to read good stories, and I have them do or read my work. Usually, I never get any of that kind of feedback. It's always just oh yeah, oh, but that scene was a little wonky at the end. Maybe you just cut the one part off. And yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. As far as I'm trying to think, 'cause we already talked about our upcoming projects and stuff and the anthology. Here's one. What failures have you had? That and I'm talking failures in incompleted stories that you had a lot of either passion for, or you really was oh, this is gonna be a good one. People are gonna like this. I'm really happy about it. And then for whatever reason, that story didn't come to fruition, and you shit it out halfway. And because I've done that a lot.
Yeah, and just abandon it.
Yeah,
and never come back.
And herpes, that just lingers. For some reason, that's always in the back of my mind. It's that story. There was something there. I wish I would have continued it. But then it feels also when you kind of miss the moment, sometimes you can't circle back and redo it.
It's the saying, no man left behind.
Yeah.
That does not apply to stories.
Yeah. Well, that Darkness and the Minor I wrote for the initial anthology before we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
That was a completed 20,000 word story.
Yeah.
And then I went back and when I was editing it, I was I wrote this all in present tense, and I realized I want this in past tense. And I started changing. I was you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And I just bailed on it. And the story, it had a lot of cool scenes. I don't know if the actual story, because it's kind of wonky. It was like a Jacob's Ladder type of deal. So just a lot of fucking nonsense in there. What's happening? And I don't know if the story itself was actually that strong versus just like the individual scenes.
I can't be in there.
Go in the bedroom.
I want to be right here.
Oh.
Can I listen?
If you want.
Okay, I won't make you nervous.
So what stories have you failed and you feel like you failed yourself and you're like, God damn. Because I know sometimes you come in, you're like, Caleb, I got this fucking great idea. And you're all jazzed about it. And then like a month goes, how's that story going, Spencer? What story?
Fuck you.
Don't talk about it.
Well, it's funny, because I'm actually, we're talking about never circling back. I'm currently working on a story that I had the idea for, like you said, the original anthology series.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You did mention that.
Not to give, it's kind of hard to explain without giving too much of it away, but it's kind of a weird thing that messes with, speed and time and, that kind of stuff.
To be fair, you didn't start writing that story, though, right?
Well,
I thought you just had the idea and you were starting to kind of.
I got 500 words into it, and then didn't touch it for probably at least a year.
I don't consider it a story until if it's gonna be a longer short story. Okay. I don't consider it a story failure until it's past these 1,500 word mark.
Okay.
Once you write 1,500 words and then you abandon it, well, now you literally abandon either a whole scene or maybe a chapter or two. It's okay, now you abandoned it. Another one I bailed on, and it wasn't so much I bailed on it because I wanted to. It's just because I got really busy with other stuff, and that's when we started putting the anthology and stuff together. Was that horror collection I was writing?
Yeah.
That and I still really like that idea. I just need to go back and
your hotel thing.
Yeah, it's like a hotel in hell, and each room is an individual person's hell, and I really want to get back to that. I just I had to be in the mood to write horror too. Usually it's around the Halloween spooky time. So
or now it's pretty horrid now. Now would be a good time to write that story.
Or another, and this is going to be a case of me circling back, that Alien story, because I do want to finish that one because I really was liking it. I just, again, got busy.
Also, the 51?
Yeah, the Area 51 story. And also, I feel like the coronavirus coming to town really fucked up a lot of past plans. Sucking balls, Mindy. What are you doing there?
You should see what's on her screen right now.
Governor Wolf to announce more counties moving to yellow phase on Friday, some possibly to green phase.
I want to go to the brown phase.
Yeah.
I think we started in the brown phase.
Same.
We were in the brown phase before Corona hit.
Gross. Oh, man. What about you, Mindy?
What are some of your writing failures and highlights? Like an essay you wrote in school one time, or a book report?
Hey, did you get that DM I sent you on Twitter?
Yeah, just a little bit ago.
Fucking Cole Sprouse looking just like Terrence Howard.
He doesn't look anything like him.
He looks. I'll show you off air. Look that up, folks. You be the judge. He looks just like Terrence Howard.
No,
it's weird.
He doesn't look anything. I don't understand. And then there's one tweet underneath that says, "No, he doesn't."
Yeah.
Is that you?
That's her. Well, I guess we covered.
It's closer than what it should be.
Yeah.
It's just like if you...
Not at all. They just gave Cole Sprouse facial hair.
He gave himself facial hair. All right. Well, I guess we exhausted that topic, or Mindy exhausted it for us. With.
Well, I don't know who that guy is anyway.
Okay. She doesn't know anybody. If you want to check up on some of those stories we were talking about, you can go to drunkenpenwriting.com. You can just click on our names on the right-hand side if you're using an actual computer like a dinosaur that you are. And if you're using your phones, it should be down near the bottom. You'll see our author names. Click on one of the authors and you could find all our work. You could also just simply go to the short stories and or flash fiction sections. You can follow us on Twitter at DrunkenPenWriting. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at DrunkenPenWriting. And any parting words, Spencer?
No.
Go brown phase.
No, don't do that.